Booyah, and it's time for the Game Sports Podcast. As your host, David McCaig Jr. The game is powered by 91 Network. That is a video platform that you could check out video podcast versions of the Game Sports Podcast and other podcasts as well. And we're also featured on Spaces, which is through Village Media and Sue Today. You can find the Game Sports Podcast on all social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all at the Game Sports Podcast. You maybe tune in on the audio side of listening to podcasts, such as Spotify, Amazon, Google, wherever you are. Like, follow, subscribe, interact, all the fun stuff we greatly appreciate here on the game. The game has been around since 2016, January of 2016. So we've been around for over 10 years and even longer if you consider Coffee with the Coach. If you know, you know. But nonetheless, I have a very simple agenda for you. You got me solo for about 5-ish to 7-ish minutes, and then Brendan's going to be coming on by, and we're going to be talking top shelf. And on this opener of the show, I'm going to be diving into the major junior side of hockey, in particular the OHL, before Brendan joins to talk the National Hockey League. This is going to be an invasion of hockey news, but before I get into that, I want to make sure I spend at least 1 minute to say a couple things. Firstly, I want to say thank you to Jerry Rowlandson, who has been a student intern here on 91 and through the Game Sports Podcast with doing editing. He has done a terrific job with our clips, with our production, and being involved. And he has this week and next week remaining, so you might hear his name on a couple episodes at the intros for saying thanks for all the great work that he has done, and very much appreciate his involvement with the show and program. Secondly, baseball is back. What a time. Obviously, the last couple episodes, we talked predictions, couple clips on social media that you can check out. Obviously, as of today, which is April 1st, April Fool's Day, at 6:20 p.m. of this recording, the Jays just did lose a second game to the Colorado Rockies, going to 4-2 to start the season. But overall, the season's had some good storylines already. Bo Bichette getting booed with New York Mets fans. The Toronto Blue Jays with a couple surprising losses to the Colorado Rockies. The Yankees started off obviously hot at the beginning of the season. Look, there has been a lot in the MLB early this season to really touch on. But if you look at overall around the league, what I think teams we're really going to see to the beginning of the season is all this parity. Then eventually things will, of course, spread out. The Brewers started off hot. The Pirates are 500. The Dodgers are 4-1. The Padres 1-4 at this time. Look, it's still early. There's still over 155 games to go. So you know that storylines are going to change. But obviously, you know, the Colorado Rockies starting off 0-3, and they don't come in and be intimidated by the Jays. We're winning the 2 out of the 3 games that they played against the Colorado Rockies, as the Blue Jays get ready to play the White Sox for the next series before the Dodgers come back to the Rogers Center. But the American League East, everyone knows I got my eyes on the American League East. That is the most powerful division in all of baseball. If you don't agree, comment below. But we're going to save baseball content for next week's edition, as we hope to have maybe Trude dive onto that, but Connor Henderson coming on by as we plan a Strike Zone segment next week. Now, going to get to the major junior scene quickly, and we're going to be just talking about the Ontario Hockey League. Obviously, the Game Sports Podcast is located in Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, so we give a little extra love to Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, okay? But look around the OHL right now in the playoffs. We got, obviously, Brantford, who's looking to sweep the Sudbury Wolves, and then you got Barrie just beat right now Niagara. They're up 2-1. Ottawa and Kingston. Ottawa's looking for the sweep in that series on Thursday. Peterborough and North Bay tied. I knew that series would be right down. But Brantford, Ottawa, look, Ottawa is looking real good. In the Western Conference, Kitchener is beating Saginaw up 3-0 right now. In that series, looking for the sweep on Thursday as well. No surprise there. Windsor up 3-0 on Guelph. I thought Guelph maybe put on a little bit more of a fight, but Windsor looking extremely dominant. Up 3-0 on Owen Sound. Look, I didn't have that in my book, but I will tell you the couple things I didn't have in my book is the complete, absolute destroy of Flint over Owen Sound in their 3 games. If you don't know, let me tell you, 8-1, 11-1, and 10-0. That is unbelievable. 29 goals in 3 games do those Flint Firebirds have over Owen Sound right now. Unbelievable. They're looking for their sweep tonight at 7 o'clock. So by the time you listen to this, the game will already be over. Maybe we'll have another double-digit win for that. Now, London and Sault Ste. Marie, the Greyhounds are up 3-0. What an exciting series. 2 wins from the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, back-to-back games, came from overtime. Obviously, you got, look, Brady Martin, you make no that, look, Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, the players are stepping up. Martin, Andrew, I really like what I'm seeing with this Hound team. And as people have said, the Greyhounds were the 5th seed in the series, but they should have been the 4th seed. London sold at the deadlines where the Hounds added. I know some London fans are surprised about this. I'm honestly surprised. I did say this series would go 7 games, but the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds are literally looking very, very good in being able to close out hockey games. Not saying they're looking decisive in each game or that they should have lost or they could have won either side. They went to overtime for 2 out of the 3 games, and that shows the parity between these two teams to a degree. But what I'm seeing is the Hounds being able to close it out and apply pressure and not really get stuck in the moment of not being able to step up. And Brady Martin's looked good. Mignosa has looked good all season, and look what he's done in this series, especially in game 1 to set the tone. And game 4 is tonight. Unfortunately, I won't be able to attend the game just because of conflicts on my end. So unfortunately, I will not be able to be there to potentially celebrate a sweep. But like I said, just like I talked about the previous series with Flint, we're going to know the score by likely the time you hear this podcast. So we'll either know the Hounds are up and have won the series, or they'll be going back to London for a game on Friday before potentially even come back to the Sioux for a game 6. And Sault Ste. Marie Greyhound fans are hoping that that does not occur, of course. Now, the biggest surprise of the whole Ontario Hockey League playoffs to me that I'm really catching on to is Flint. I think that goes without saying. Flint, and I thought Guelph would put up more of a fight against Windsor, but Flint is looking absolutely dominant. Now, the way that it would look is if Kitchener, Windsor, Flint, and the Sioux won, which it's, all 4 teams are up 3-0. Looking like that's probably going to happen. All likelihood, very high percentage. It would be Kitchener against the Hounds and Windsor against Flint. Ooh, that is absolutely amazing. I would look forward to that. That is some exciting hockey that we're about to maybe witness for the major junior side, of course, but the Ontario Hockey League playoffs. Now, leave your predictions below. Now, look, if you listen to this podcast and the games have already happened, like the Flint game, the Sioux game, obviously, those are the 2 games that are on tonight. It seems the rest are tomorrow. So obviously you can't predict that if they've moved on. But if they didn't move on, do you think they will wrap up in game 5, those 2 teams, or one of those 2 teams if they haven't? If they have wrapped up, ignore that point. What about the other series? Do you think it's going to end as we sort of see predicted? You can check out mine and Jordan Trudeau's predictions from last episode. And right now, I predicted Hounds in 7. Trudeau predicted them in 6. We're looking like we have a very high chance of being wrong, for example. So be very interested to know your thoughts on how you think this whole first round is going, if there's any surprises. Like I said, Flint is surprised very much. Getting 29 goals in 3 games is absolutely absurd. And to do it at home is one thing, but to get 11 at home is another thing. But to get 10 on the road is an absolute another level. That is unbelievable. Unbelievable. So you get me to talk about a little bit of baseball and major junior hockey. And before we bring in Brendan, I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, we will have Top Shelf. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Game Sports Podcast. David McCaig continuing to host you this evening. I'm joined by B-Mac, the one, the only. We got some style going today, okay? This is the Top Shelf segment. B-Mac, how's it going, my friend?
I'm doing good, buddy. Man, what a week for Mr. Pelly and the Maple Leafs. Holy smokes.
It always seems like we're definitely going to get into Leafs and updates around the whole entire NHL. And I know when I told listeners and viewers at the beginning that we're going to be talking Top Shelf on NHL, I didn't get into the full topic. So guess what? You're going to learn as you go here. But it always seems that there's something at the end of each season. Either big announcement about sorry how much we sucked, or a big announcement about someone getting fired, a big apology again to the Leaf fans because we didn't perform the way we did, or a thank you because we made it to the second round. That's a big celebration. There's always something at either the beginning or end, mainly the end of a season when it comes to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Okay, and I expect it every year. There's something that's gonna take the day, and then the media just goes off about it. And that happened with Mr. Keith Pelly, his recent press conference, because of a recent decision to fire Brad Treliving. But we're going to table that for a second, because I know people are anxiously waiting for some Toronto talk from us, because that's going to invade this.
Hey, we got to say media avail now. Press conference is dated, my guy.
Media availability. Didn't
I
see?
mean,
Teaching me as I go.
it's not written in stone, but I mean, let's get with the times. It's 2026. Press conference is like 1976, Dave. I don't know why people still say it. I remember a higher up at work sent us a mass email about that, and I'm like, it's true. Like, press is so old. Like,
So
it's
true.
all social media and TikTok and all the bells and whistles, but it's like so and so had a press conference today, or so and so will address the media at a press conference tomorrow. I'm like, it's so formal, you know?
Okay, I like that. I didn't know that. See,
Yeah.
that's good to know. I feel I'm out. I've been living under a rock with it. So
No,
media
no. It's
availability.
look,
So
everyone
Keith
says it.
Pelly's media availability.
Media, I
People are gonna chirp below. I want to hear
media,
your
media.
barks
I even
below.
like
Bark
trim
at
it
me below.
down
I'm
to
feeling old today.
I like to trim it down to even, try to alert to the younger gen too, who might not even get availability. It's too long for them to say because then they'll just bury themselves in their phone. So you got to trim it to avail. Media avail. I've been saying that, so it kind of hits all gens. You know what I mean? But no, it's just one of those things where now that I hear it, I just smirk. But a lot of people still say presser or press conference. It's funny.
I might just stick to presser so I feel like I'm still in my younger days. But first, before we get into that, obviously the National Hockey League playoff picture is starting to look a little bit more like as we talk tonight, the Minnesota Wild have a chance to clinch the playoff berth, which no surprise. Okay, there's some teams that have already clinched. You got Colorado, you got Dallas. If you look over in the East, no one has that highlight yet, but Buffalo's going to be there, Tampa's going to be there. You would assume Montreal is going to be there, Boston likely, unless there's some big drop off in these next handful of games. Okay, obviously the Toronto Maple Leafs saying, okay, not happening, everybody. If Florida Panthers are underneath them in the standings, if that makes you feel any better. The Carolina Hurricanes are where they are. Pittsburgh Penguins, what? And New York Islanders, they're in the picture. Columbus, right now, they are battling. You got a battle for that East wild card,
Yeah,
man. You got
the dogfight.
Ottawa, you got Detroit, you got Columbus and Philadelphia, Washington, former division favorites going into this season. Look, let's talk Eastern Conference before we jump over the West. What do you suspect these next 5 games? Ottawa, was hot, got cold, they got dismantled by Florida the other night. Like what's going on with this wild card? You used the perfect word 5 months ago ish. Drunk these standings. Now talk about
Yeah,
it.
no, you know what's funny is I was laughing at the way they work today because I find it so funny how like Leaf fans, and I know I'm a Leaf fan, but like sometimes when you try to like, basically say like, yeah, it's been tough, but I mean, wouldn't want to be in this position. Everyone's saying like, it's tough, it's a lost season, but man, the Senators. I'm like, what are you talking about? The Senators are 2 points out of a playoff spot. And they have a game in hand over Columbus, and they have more ROWs. I know they got their ass kicked by the Panthers, who are effectively tanking right now. But I love how like they're like, yeah, no, it's been it's been tough. We'll just look ahead to next year. But man, like how about those Senators? Like they've been shit. I'm like, actually, they're actually in a pretty good position right now, all things considered. But I still think they sneak in, man. I think Sens
Yeah.
fans, they got a glimpse of Sens playoff hockey, of late in the Brady Tkachuk era, we'll say, and that's one guy who will his team there. There's very very few guys who kind of have that aura about them, like the Tkachuk brothers, both of them do. Obviously, McDavid, McKinnon, but there's some guys that are just like, I will drag you into the fight and the mud, and we're just gonna make it happen. So that's a team I still think sneaks in. And then the other Canadian teams that are in right now, Edmonton, Montreal. Montreal has been wheeling and dealing of late. I actually had a bet with our friend Evan Dobiggin. He's one of those guys who he's a big homer for his respective teams, like the Canadians and the Dallas Cowboys. But he almost like assumes defeat because he can't handle the heartbreak. So he just assumes defeat before the results unfold, right? So I made a bet
That's a
with him.
statistician right there.
Pardon me?
That's a statistician right there.
Yeah, it is. And just a long-suffering, sports fan, I guess. But that's the beauty of sports. You never know what the hell's going to happen. So I find it funny. I always chirp him for it. So around the Olympics, I said, I'm going to make a bet with you that the Habs get in and the Leafs don't. And he said, sign me up. And that is a lukewarm take coming from me. Basically asking, can you get me a Starbucks farmer's wrap? That was the bet. So I'm basically getting a free farmer's wrap because I think they've strung together like 6 straight wins. And
Yep.
they're
Yep.
cooking right now. Bell Center is on fire every night. They deserve. I talked about the Sens fans and that barn, but man, Bell Center is the best barn in the league, bar none. And those fans are just so rambunctious. It's awesome. I was there a couple years ago for a Leafs game, like March 2022. Like I guess it's April 1st today, but it was like late March, and this was still in the Keefe era, and the Leafs they lost 5-2 to the Habs, and it felt like a playoff game. The Habs were out; they were in the Leafs position this year, and the Leafs had already clinched. But man, like even that, it's like obviously Toronto's in town, but they're such a passionate fan base, and I'm really pumping Evan's tires now. But I will say, Evan, I like hot sauce with my Farmer's Wrap, buddy.
Washington's won 3 in a row, 6-2-2 in their last 10. Teams are getting hot at the right time. It's going to make it come right down the wire. I'd be very surprised if this didn't go to game 82, Brennan, for the East.
Yeah,
But the last thing I'll say about the East, is Tampa Bay for 1 second. You're probably wondering why. Pretty obvious. If you have a ticket to a Tampa Bay Lightning game and you're one of the Buffalo Sabres, Montreal Canadiens, maybe Florida Panthers, heck, even Boston Bruins, there's going to be a brawl. You know what? You're getting the money's worth. There's going to be fights. Tampa Bay, it seems like they're in the middle of every game that is a brawl or a fight this year. Tampa Bay is just loving getting the pims up and the fights and the misconducts. I didn't have that on my docket given that roster, but they're making for some good entertainment. Okay, let me tell you, like first round potential matchup against the Montreal Canadiens. Sign me up for all of that. Never mind that Buffalo first round series. Okay, I'll save that for potential second round. I'd rather it be Montreal Buffalo. But that aside, if you're looking for a game where you're gonna have a couple Dukes and you're a Montreal Buffalo fan, Boston fan, sign up for a game that or buy tickets for a game that involves the Tampa Bay Lightning right now because they just want to go to every game and it seems like they just want to get in a brawl. They want to fight. They want to mix it up. That's some great stuff right there. Tampa Bay is showing a side that I didn't see that think that they would have, Brendan, this year.
yeah. I mean, anyone who draws them in the first round, it's going to be tough. Right now, it's probably going to be the Habs. I think they'll have some good fight, but man, Tampa, they're just so experienced. So many veterans on that team. John Cooper, isn't he the longest tenured active head
Yep,
coach right
I
now?
think exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
He was
yeah,
hired in 20,
yeah.
20, which is
Yes, it's been that long. Yes, it has been that long. Yeah,
which is
yeah.
wild. I think after him comes Bednar on the Avs, and um, Avs are doing just okay. Decent season, but
Best team in the league.
yeah. So I mean, in the West, do you think the Kings get in there? They're what? They're 1 point back.
That Pacific Division's so much trash. I almost don't even care to say because like it's any other team in that Pacific Division doesn't get a shake in the other divisions. But do the Kings get that chance? They've been playing 500 hockey and a lot of overtime losses, 4 in the last 10. This is a team that is just not making that oomph. But if you look at the Western Conference, it's so wide open because you
Man.
have the Mammoth, you have Nashville, who mathematically is obviously not out because look at the Kings. The Sharks are mathematically not out yet either. There's some chance there for a team to squeak in, and if there is going to be a team, my eyes are on the Utah and LA. I like Nashville because of the vibe. I've never been there, so that's probably why. I just think it's like their fan base when it's playoff time, they just amp it up there a little
Bridgestone's
bit. Which
crazy.
is
I've never been, but just I mean,
crazy.
seeing it on TV, like it's basically like the Bell Center equivalent in the West.
And the Jets have a shot too, technically. Okay, like this is I'm thinking Utah, LA get in, but I can't count out the Predators or the Jets. And the Jets are getting hot at the right time, 6-2-2 in their last 10 as of recording tonight. So let's hope for Canadians' sake. I'd love to see the Jets back there. They're too good not to be in there.
But man, you look at Edmonton too, right? Like they could get Vegas, they could get Utah, they could get Anaheim, and they're missing their top gun, right?
And they've won 4 in a row without their top gun. And as of tonight, without Leon, when they have healthy.
Yeah, it's true. There's so much up in the air though. It's like who we getting, right? Like Draisaitl status. Obviously they have McJesus, but I mean, there's a lot of uncertainty there.
There is. There's one thing that isn't uncertain. That's the Colorado Avalanche. Okay, they're gonna come rain avalanches. Okay, wherever they play, that team is just looking intimidating and so good. But so's Dallas. But Minnesota, like that. Those 3 teams in the Central, it can go any way. And you put either one of them in a 7-game series against each other, it's going to be wicked. But as it stands right now, very likely you're going to see Minnesota, Dallas in the first round, which is wild. Which is wild. That was not meant on purpose, to be honest
Dallas,
with you.
man. Dallas is my pick.
But where did Dallas come from? Right? Like, it's like at the Minnesota North Stars, right? Like it's kind of like the background there, the stories, but the teams, it's be so epic. It's like a Tampa Montreal series, right? It's like it's going to be entertaining from puck drop game 1 to puck drop and game 7. I'm going to say game 7 in advance for a series like that. But Minnesota is so, I love the way the defensive core is set up with Quinn, with Faber. I'm a fan of what they have there. And Dallas, though, I've always liked the makeup of their team, and their captain is one heck of a leader that would go balls to the wall for that team. But something tells me Minnesota wins that series. Just that the XL energy set,
That'll
in
be
Minnesota, the state of hockey's gonna be epic.
that would be a bloodbath. Yeah, Dallas mini and in the opener, like that could go like double overtime game 7. Like just like right down to the wire.
Right down to the wire. 7 games, but Utah getting in there's a feel good story, right?
It is.
I'm sure Arizona fans are like, oh, well, okay, I'll just go over here in the corner now. But obviously, the West is still open. Still, anything could change. Let alone tonight to the next couple days, going into next week, as we see a bit more clearer of a playoff picture next week. Now, Brendan, let's transition to Mr. Tortorella is back in the National Hockey League. And we used to make jokes. We said, what kind of coach do you, when we used to cheer for Marner on this team right back here, if you're on video, you get to see the jersey I'm pointing at. Imagine we had John Tortorella as the coach for Mitch Marner. And, you think Mike Babcock was bad. But now it's like, we wish we could play back those clips. Okay, maybe Jerry's going to have to maybe try to find if we have those clips somewhere. He doesn't really have access to those, so good luck, Jerry.
I actually
look for those.
I actually have some breaking news regarding Vegas.
Well, let's go. Tell us first. Let's go.
Mitch Marner requests trade out of Vegas. April Fools.
Love it. April Fools. Right back to Toronto.
Yeah. Sources say Toronto interested in reacquiring Mitch Marner after he demanded
4 first-round picks.
Demanded a trade out of Vegas.
4 first-round picks.
Yeah.
4 first-round picks.
You know what?
And
I did not have that on my bingo card, but hey, Torts.
Nor did Mitch Marner.
He's getting the itch, man. He's getting the itch. Like he is one of the best to man a bench, and I think this will be really a big boost for Vegas. They're at this point going to play Edmonton in the opening round, and man, if you're Edmonton, that's a tough team to square off against in the opening round. Usually in the last couple of years they've gotten LA who played them well, but ultimately like Edmonton just has that extra juice in them. So sometimes it's like, it'd be nice to just kind of get, no disrespect to the inferior teams, but to get warmed up for the, bigger, more challenging teams. But you draw Vegas in the opening round. That's basically drawing, like, I know they've been like up and down this year, but it's still Vegas, right? Like, come on. Like they're 3 years out from winning the cup, and they have so many vets and big time players on that team. Eichel, Stone, obviously Mitch, back end's a veteran group. And now you had Torts into the mix. Like, come on, man. And the goaltending's been tough. But again, like if you go up against Edmonton, their goaltending hasn't been that great. And part of me is like, I would lean towards a Vegas win against Edmonton in the opening round, right?
And we don't want to say that. I want people to know that, you want a Canadian team when you're a Canadian program, but it's real. We're realistic here on this show. And I don't disagree. That series is going the distance, but I wonder if that tenacious play by Vegas would overcome the Edmonton Oilers, and that just cap their offense is just, even though you have Connor McDavid on the other side, and Leon will be back, I'm sure, by game 1. That is still very deep offense do Vegas have, and good defensively.
Yeah.
They picked up Anderson. Do people forget that?
Yeah.
Like they have some good defense back there that I think is stronger than Edmonton's, to be honest.
Dude, Rasmus Anderson had like a gorgeous highlight reel goal on the PK the other night. He just walked through, like, I forget the team they were playing, but he walked through everybody and then did his classic like stare down he does that after every time he scores. He does this like big stare down to like an opposing fan in the rink. It's so funny. That guy is a hockey player, man. Oh, he's a stud on the back end.
Next GM of Toronto, take note, he's a free agent this summer. Now, speaking of that, Brendan, I know we're getting close to our time, so we'll spend the next handful of minutes expediting this as quick as we can before our couple little rapid fire questions, one word answers I want to give before we wrap up Top Shelf. Okay, Brad Treliving, it has been fired by Keith Pelly and company with the Toronto Maple Leafs, has been relieved of his duties as a general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And not a surprise. I'm surprised it didn't happen before the deadline, to be totally honest with you. You think about a team maybe making moves when they're selling. But for those who didn't listen to Keith Pelly's press conference, I'm not going to sit here and go through that into too much, but quote unquote, some words, he decided to part ways, thought they had the right leadership. He talked about responsibility that ultimately sits with him. He wants to win. He wants to look at someone who is more analytical. He wants to get an analytical someone. He's not rebuilding. He wants to retool. Very much short summarize of what he said. The media availability, let me say that right, is worth the watch. It was March 31st. And I'm sitting here saying that press conference might have gotten rid of a couple people that people have as candidates, given how he wants to retool, because there's been some people that have been open that I thought were candidates. Some particular podcasts have been open, or media outlets saying that this team needs to be burnt down, needs to be right down to the studs. So Keith Pelly doesn't want that. He's looking at something analytical. He's taking accountability and everything. And Brad Treliving has been let go. So Brendan, I want your reaction on Treliving getting let go. And then I want to kind of predict just a couple people who we think might be sitting in that chair besides Brandon Prinham and Rob Hardy right now, who are the guys sitting in the chairs on the interim basis. Maybe they'll be permanent. Maybe Prinham will be permanent. Who knows? But who is going to be replacing them down the road? But so your reaction and who we looking like might be a good replacement for the Buds when it comes draft time, because you need to have a GM by then.
Yeah, I do want to listen to the Kelly Mediaville in full, but based on the snippets I heard and the quotes, like, it's a businessman talking, right? He wants to put asses in the seats and he wants to sell jerseys and merch and tickets, right? A lot of the stuff he's saying is kind of just, all right, like where is the concrete, we effed up, we're going this direction, trust us kind of thing, right? It just seemed a lot like, oh, where are we going here? Like, fans want to know, okay, the season, it's a lost season, but give us some sort of direction so there's optimism going forward. So I don't think he motivated a lot of people, it sounds like. And it's tough. I'm probably in the minority. Like, Treliving had to go. I'm in the minority that says keep Craig Berube. I think that guy should remain the bench boss, because I'll say this. At some point, the players have to just put their ego aside and take some effing accountability. They always say that, but they don't embrace that, right? They've gone through Mike Babcock, who was the a-hole coach, says too much for us, we can't do it. And we have to sign our long-term deals if we're going to put it. That's what happened, right? They had to ink their long-term deals because this is my coach, because Babcock was signed for 8 years, 2015 to 2023 technically. So they said, shit, I gotta make my cash now and get my contract, because I got to deal with this guy. It was too much, but they inked their deals, and then they said, okay, fine, we'll give you Sheldon Keefe, okay? Winner with the Marlies, Dubas and him, tag team from the Marlies, Calder Cup 2018, whatever. And Keefe was too soft, apparently. Then they bring in Berube, which is probably a mix of the Babcock and Sheldon Keefe. Yeah, and apparently that's not working. So at some point, it's like, oh, they got to get a new coach. I'm like, no, at some point, it's the players that are the problem. And they're just not, I don't think, taking necessary accountability. Which is infuriating if you're a fan, because
Great word.
you could have the best coach in the world, and you're not going to get through to them, right? So I would keep Berube, because I don't think you're gonna, like, if it's not, who else, like DeBoer, Cassidy, like I don't really, at some point it's like it could be anybody. They're not going to listen.
It's not the coach's fault.
It's not the coach's fault.
The coaches. I know everyone's saying send Berube to the moon. And look, when the next GM comes in, they're going to have to make their decision who they want to coach this team. And if they do relieve Berube, hopefully they're not relieving Berube. Wow, Berube. They're not relieving Berube because they think they need the change. It's just more of a strategic fit, or based on their plans, or it's more of a mutual. Because the big thing that I took from Pelly was fixed leadership, not the roster. And if that's the case, that's not the mindset that I want to see, because it's obviously a problem with the roster. And I'm not looking at Tavares, big Johnny guy here. I'm not even looking at Matthews, but according to sources and some friends that I have that work in some media areas, and no, not this guy, not this guy on the camera with me here today, some other separate. that Keith Pelly had a nice little text conversation with Austin Matthews, and you wonder what the heck that was about. Are you serious? You're not serious? What's the plan? Because that contract's going to run out soon, and you're going to be like, is this guy going to want to stay, or is this a guy we have to move on from? And if that's a decision that decides and dictates, that's up to the next GM. That shouldn't be up to Mr. Keith Pelly. Keith Pelly, do your job in the presidential penthouse, whatever you're doing up in MLSC, and bring in somebody that is going to do right by this roster. Because fix leadership, not the roster, is not the answer. It's fix the whole system.
Well, that was the
everything.
That was the thing. Is their idea was, okay, we're going to just stick with Pelly as CEO and president, Trey Living as GM, and Berube as coach, because we want to hear more from Berube and Trey Living and have their role expand a little bit more. It didn't work out that way. I guarantee there was some friction, there was some disconnect. I mean, Berube is acting like they're gunning for the playoffs. Trey Living was like, no, we're selling, and then Pelly's like, I'm trying to fill seats and sell merchants. So it's like there wasn't really like a collective buy-in, right? And ultimately, it's like Berube is going to coach with what he's got. It's up to the GM to be like, this guy's done, right? Nyes is injured. He's done. And I'm going to basically give you like some Marley. It's I call it a strategic tank, right? It's like you're just going to basically ice a lineup of your B players like it's preseason again, right? But there was some disconnect there. And I think they need to bring in, so to answer your question, they need to bring in some more voices. I think they get Shane Doan in an elevated role, and you bring in Haley Wickenheiser and elevate her role.
I like
It'd
that.
be huge.
That's a big pick, was Haley Wickenheiser. That was
yeah, you don't see a lot of females in front. In Seattle, you got it, right? Campbell, right?
Yep.
She's assistant coach, a head coach.
You know what? She's a legend. And Shane Doan is these player GMs is something that I really looked at too. Joe Sakic, Stevie Eisman, some great minds out there. And firing Berube, I'm a fan of keeping Berube.
Yeah.
If they let him go, I'm interested to see who they bring in. But I will say that I think when it comes from a GM perspective, I think they need to bring in somebody who can have the both control of the say. And to be honest, I hope it isn't. I know people are talking about Doug Armstrong. They're talking about some of these names. And I hope it is not Doug Armstrong. I'm going to say that flat. I have heard about Mike Gillis being president and not GM. I'm okay with that because of what he is from a brain perspective, but I'm going to stick to the GM spot. One person that is really sticking out to me is Sonny Mita, and I probably pronounced his last name incorrectly, and you can roast me below. He's the assistant GM and head of analytics for the Florida Panthers, and he's a key member of hockey operations managing a Linux analytics team. And I think and hope if Pelly's talking about analytical and forward thinking, that is a mind that you have to look at as Sonny. I'm also a fan of very under the bridge take that people probably are not thinking of, is Joe Thornton. I think Joe Thornton is an interesting pick. He loves his area in San Jose. He's involved in Hockey Canada. Somebody who has played on Leafs team, former player, could collaborate very well with someone like Shane Doan and Haley Wickenheiser. If there was a collaboration between them, there, it'd be very interesting. But my guy that is Sonny Mita from the Florida Panthers is my pick.
Joe kind of fit that role though? Like I'd almost maybe lean towards a Jason Spezza, who's a little bit more serious and
sure.
Sure,
that's a good one too.
Not that Joe wouldn't take it seriously, but he just kind of seems like he's like a guy like he was at the part of the mentors trip with Matthews this year or a few years ago, and he likes to be around. But I don't know if like that's really a role suited for him.
That's a good take.
Maybe Spezza, like he has that experience being Dubas' right-hand man in Pitt, right?
Yeah.
I love how some people were like, data-centric they want. Okay, we'll bring back Dubas. I'm like, Dubas would laugh. He's like, oh, actually, I'm heading on a bird right now. I can't talk.
My first pick is Sonny from the Florida Panthers as their assistant.
Interesting.
I like that pick. I've done my background look and I've looked at different pieces. And despite the names that are flashy that are out there right now, Sonny is the guy from the Florida Panthers. If you don't know who he is, he's worth a Google. I've done research on assistant GMs in the league. I've looked really around and thought about this topic. This is somebody that I think should be on prime class number one, and he's obviously been a key part of building that team in Florida, who has won back-to-back cups. He has done very, very well. I am really much a fan of Sonny. He should be the next GM in Toronto.
You know who I think?
Bailey and Shane Doe need to remain in this organization, though.
100%. I think their roles should be elevated. Imagine they
elevated.
Yeah,
For
imagine
sure.
they tag team the GM, like general
Something
manager,
like
GM,
or the
assistant
president
GM.
of operations.
Like let's think outside the box here, right?
Yeah, I agree.
You know what though? The
But-
ultimate choice, Alex Parr.
I thought you were gonna say me. I would have been honored.
Alex
I've
Parr.
won 9 cups in NHL franchise mode.
I feel like Alex Parr like has dinners with Keith Pelly, and he had an idea where this was headed after the Florida loss in Game 7. He just knew what was going down, and I mean, when he said he's out, like he's like ghosting out.
Full out.
Gone.
He knew something was going on. We got to get him back to answer that question. Now
He's never coming back.
All right.
The possibility of Alex Parr coming back is the same as Canada winning the World Cup this year.
Or
we should do that. We should put an ultimatum. If Canada wins or if Canada advances from the group stage, you got to come back to the pod.
That's a great idea. I'm going to text
Let's do that
after we're done.
Yeah.
I like that. Like that.
Cool.
You should, if I forget, put it on the group.
Yeah.
All right. That's my take. Everyone comment below who you think would be a hot take for the Leafs GM. I gave you mine, and hopefully it's sunny in Toronto.
Jeez.
That's what I'll go with. That's not the title of this episode. I hope you guys know that I'm keeping it simple. All right.
I hope you take a puck off the ankle for that cringy line.
I'll let you know if I do. Now, last thing before I let you go, Brendan, I promised a couple rapid fire questions. Okay, we'll keep it quick before we wrap up the show. We've had a great top shelf segment, overdue, 30 minutes worth. Awesome. Little extra, but it's okay. Let's get to these questions and we will wrap up the show. All right. Biggest disappointment this year in the National Hockey League?
Sorry, I know it's rapid fire. It's easy to say Toronto, but Toronto.
I'm going to go New York Rangers just because I feel like saying the Rangers. Biggest surprise team?
Nashville.
Pittsburgh for me. The best feel-good story of the season.
Feel-good story. I guess Utah.
Utah? I'll say Buffalo.
Okay.
The Buffalo Sabres. Now, last thing to make it real hot to end it, put you right on the spot with 2 Canadian boys. Who is better right now, Connor McDavid or the dog, Nathan McKinnon?
Just better, question mark. Just who is better?
Right now, today, April 1st, no April Fool's nonsense.
Nate Dogg.
I'll stick Connor McDavid. I got to stick with Connor McDavid. That's the last question I was going to ask you. But you know what? I wanted one fun wild card question, so I lied. This will be the last one. One rule you'd change. What rule would you change if you could make it immediately changed? One rule.
3-on-3, 10 minutes.
We are so aligned. That's a great way.
Also, sorry, I'll do a 1B. Go back to 1v8.
Yes. Yeah. Eastern Conference seeding down to the yes. Aligned to both those 1A, answers. Those are some good answers. The socials are going to have fun with that one. Yeah. Now, Brendan, that was good. Another top shelf in the books, my friend. We'll be back next week. We're going to start talking a little playoffs, and then we got the playoff matchups by the next episode, by the absolute latest, predicting our playoffs, getting to the annual predictions for the Stanley Cup playoffs. I want to say thank you, my friend. It's been a joy. We got to what we can talking about the Leafs and all the NHL today. And as always, I appreciate your time, dude.
Thank you, my man. Be well.
Awesome. And thank you to all you, the viewers and listeners of the Game Sports Podcast. If you aren't interacting or aren't following, make sure you are on all social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, 91N, Spaces. We're all over. Just search the Game Sports Podcast. Like I said a couple weeks ago, I searched on ChatGPT, the podcast. It actually gave links and it said booyah. Fun fact. Way. I went to Gemini and searched it and said booyah when I said it. It said the Game Sports Podcast bracket booyah.
ChatGPT.
You got to check that and see if it does that. ChatGPT and Gemini got you covered if you really need to know where we are. But just search us. We are there.
All right. Okay?
Over 10 years we've been there. Now, I want to say thank you to Brennan. I want to say thank you to Jerry in the background, of course, for all the hard work that he does for us. Only a couple weeks left with Jerry. Then back to that old editor we have. That's a step down, that old editor. That's going to be stepping back into the episodes to do. And also to all you out there, happy April Fool's Day. Hopefully you didn't get pranked too much. By the time you listen to this, it's probably after April Fool's Days, but guess what? So be it. A lot of things are going to be happening in sports next couple weeks, and we are going to be here to be a part of it with you. And until next time, I'm here to remind you to keep your stick on the ice, swing your bats, catch your touchdowns, drain your threes, and shoot your shots. Booyah.
Hey.